genre.
Welcome back to The Doctor's Companion Presents Doctor Who The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And today on the show we'll be discussing Fury from the Deep, the second Doctor's 13th story, and Victoria's last.
Indeed. But the sonic screwdriver's first.
Yeah, that was fun.
So that's something. Yeah, so Fury from the Deep, we watched an animated version because it does not exist. But when it did, it aired from the 16th of March through the 20th of April in 1968. It is 6 parts, written by Victor Pemberton and directed by Hugh David, whose only other Doctor Who story that he directed, unfortunately, was The Highlanders, which means that none of his stories that he directed actually exist, which is depressing, to say the least. And this is the only one that's been animated. I don't think Highlanders has been animated, right? So
no, I didn't see it on there.
Yeah,
it might have been, but
I don't think it was. It's probably not considered like a major story or something.
But that's Jamie's first story.
Right, yeah. It's probably just like low priority in the grand scheme of things. Because it's just like a historical, and you know how people are with historicals.
Yeah.
So this is Fury from the Deep. Curious what you guys thought of this one, but I will say this. I thought I was having a pretty good time with it. I was like, yeah, okay, all right, I'm vibing. Nice animation, whatever. I think I'm digging the animation. I definitely like this sort of what would you call this? Like Archer-esque animation more than some of the other like real weird ones that they do, like the weird CGI animation they're using for Celestial Toymaker, which is just completely unhinged and shouldn't be seen by anyone. But I like the animation and everything, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm vibing with this. I guess it's just maybe it's like a little like boring or something. And then I was like, oh, I wonder how much footage of this actually exists, because there's always like clips and stuff. So I found this this sort of like collection of all the clips that do exist of the footage from this story. And watching that, I was like, oh, I bet if this existed, this story would rule, because like immediately the energy just picks up by like 70% as soon as you're seeing like live action actors with facial expressions and, like running around and, having big reactions and stuff. So I definitely miss that, because I think that this would probably be so much better with that. But that being said, I still enjoy a lot of this, and I think it's pretty fun. And I really like those two guys, Quill and what's his name?
Oak.
Yeah, right. Oak and Quill. Yeah, the two little freaks.
Yeah.
The Shifty Twins.
I really like those two little freaks. Yeah. So, but I'm curious, like, what did you guys? What do you think about this one? Cass, is this your first time watching this one?
Yes, but
well, yeah.
quote unquote, like I watched the reconstruction ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm gonna sound like a stick in the mud. I think the color is throwing me off. Like I feel like it would be a lot more atmospheric even with the animation if they continued to do them in black and white.
There is a black and white version. It's just not on Tubi.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah, like it on the Blu-ray or whatever. It comes in
Yeah.
both versions.
Like it's cool that they're doing it and like making it accessible. Like that's really cool. Because the reconstruction is not, because there's only like 3 minutes of footage total across
Yeah.
like 6 episodes.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of struggling with this. I did like aspects of it a lot, and like you said, like I watched the little clip reel and like because I remembered seeing that that scene in episode 2 where the 2 little freaks are like breathing gas on that woman. And like it's the most horrifying thing, like so I think I was missing that this time. But I did like how it handles like Victoria's departure. And I like how I like the concept of it a lot, but I think it suffers from my least favorite Doctor Who antagonist, which is shouty white man who doesn't listen. So the first 3 episodes in particular were like, oh, okay. But you know, I'm glad that it exists in this form so that people can watch it.
Yeah. Nick, what were your
the
thoughts?
Doctor's ultimate foe from the classic era, middle management, shouty white guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's never at the top. He's never at the bottom. He's always just got just enough power to be like, I'm in charge here. But then they always have the option to like go upstairs and be like, hey, this guy's being a prick. And then someone usually comes in around episode like 5 to be like, hey, I heard you're being a prick.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least he gets replaced by his mommy in this one, which is what I referred to her as when she shows up, because she puts him to bed at one point, and I'm like, this is silly.
Oh god. And the way he's animated, he has this like perpetual grimace even when he becomes a plant zombie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was quite entertained by this. You know, it's bog standard Doctor Who. I thought about what you said, Scott, about what a blessed invention the psychic paper is, because it you get the cheat code out of being thrown in a cupboard or an office or a jail cell for like an episode and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful you shared that footage, because, you know, I think I got through like half the story before you shared that on the Discord, and while I was watching, I was like, man, I bet this looked really cool on TV in black and white, especially the tentacle monsters, which are really menacing. And I always loved this era's visual mood whenever we do get to watch a proper story, and that kind of like 60s Avengers kind of mod black and white style that it had. But yeah, you know, entertaining enough. Blessedly not too boring for a 6-parter. I think it moves at a clip, even though it's not super dynamic for a 6-parter. And yeah, I just we'll get to it in episode 6, but there's a set piece in this that is well animated, but I'm like, how the fuck did they pull this off? What did this look like in the 60s?
I was praying that sequence would be included in the footage that exists, because I was like, I want to know what this looks like.
I bet it's like straight up Thunderbird shit, you know?
Oh yeah, I bet you're probably right. Just a toy helicopter moving through some leaves.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, so this was, as I mentioned, this was written by Victor Pemberton. He actually proposed a very similar story using like all very similar themes, called The Slide, which was about a sentient form of mud that took over a group of villagers. He proposed that in 1964 to David Whittaker, who turned it down. And then Pemberton then took it and rejiggered it, took out the Doctor Who elements, and proposed it to BBC Radio as an audio serial, which they picked up. So that exists. It's called The Slide, and in it, the The sort of like Doctor-esque role is played by none other than Roger Delgado, which I assume is what the reference to the Wanted poster in this is. I think it's a reference to the slide, which is what this story kind of evolved out of.
I assumed that because it took place in the 70s, like they just added the poster there.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that Roger Delgado was the star of
the
that's thing
really
that this was also based on. And then his poster is there too. I'm sure that's how they justified it though.
Listeners, in the animation that you can watch on Tubi, there's a really fun Easter egg. We're at the underwater base that they're at most of the time. There's just a wanted poster for Roger Delgado's master. That's really fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. So a few years later, David Whitaker was no longer the story editor of the show. Instead, producer Peter Bryant had taken over, and so he pitched it again, a new version of the story, which then replaced mud with seaweed and changed things to the North Sea, a refinery in the North Sea, and proposed it again. And Bryant liked it a lot more. So he was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And so he greenlights the script, and Pemberton starts writing it. But then around this time, while this was happening, Bryant went from story editor to producer and brought in a new story editor. At one point, he was Victor Pemberton was Bryant's assistant, and then became story editor for one story, that story being Tomb of the Cybermen, which if you go back, you can listen to how all of that went down. But after being story editor for that, Pemberton decided that he didn't want to be in a producerial role of any kind and would rather just do freelance. So that's when he sort of like quit and then reproposed the story, Fury from the Deep, which at the time was called Colony of Devils, which doesn't really make any sense. And repitched this and got it greenlit. And then while he was writing it, Bryant went and hired a new story editor named Derek Sherwin. And as the Pemberton scripts started coming in, Derek Sherwin didn't like them so much. He just wasn't into the vibes at all. And the combination of there being a lot of stuff that he was not vibing with, and also the fact that Victoria, the actress who plays Victoria, has decided to leave the show, and that this would be her final, Deborah Watling, that she decided to leave the show, and so that would need to be rewritten, and they would need to like build in like this sort of like slow roll of her realization that she doesn't want to be traveling in the TARDIS anymore because she's too squared. So he rewrote all of his scripts. He changed some things around. Originally, the story's climax was taken care of when Jamie started playing bagpipes at the seaweed, and they changed it to Victoria's screams so she could get one last like successful like I did something in her final story rather than just like, you know, crying the whole story, I guess. So they replaced that and a few other things. He made apparently the original plan for Oak and
Quill.
Thank you. Oak and Quill was that he wanted them to essentially be like a grim parody of Laurel and Hardy. They were like apparently even creepier than they are now. He like scaled that back as well. Which all of these changes basically culminated in Victor Pemberton taking a look at the scripts and being like, this sucks. I hate this. I don't want to do this. I want my name taken off of it. And he was eventually talked out of doing that. In fact, he would end up attempting to spin off Oak and Quill into their own project, which, never came into fruition because what the hell would that be? I mean, I assume they would be like not taken over by the seaweed, so they would just be like two guys, I guess. I don't know.
Huh.
I'm not really sure what the plan there was.
Is it just like waiting for Godot?
I don't know. So anyway, so the project moves forward. They start shooting it. As scripted, there was an extended sequence at the top of episode 1 in which the Doctor would use a regular screwdriver to slowly unscrew the 4 screws and lift the plate off and everything. And it was Michael Bryant, a production assistant who would later become a director, starting with Colony in Space in 1971. Michael Bryant was like, hey, what if it was like a sound-driven screwdriver so that it could lift all 4 screws at the same time, so that we're not just watching him slowly unscrew this plate for an extended period of time. And they were like, oh, that's a great idea. We'll call it a sonic screwdriver. And so they create this prop. And it was so cold right next to the ocean in the middle of winter that that Patrick Troughton could not keep holding the sonic screwdriver prop that they had created. I don't know what it looked like or what it was made of or anything like that, but he was having a lot of trouble holding it because he couldn't even feel his hands. It was so cold. And so they ended up having to toss out the prop that was made for the sonic screwdriver and instead ripped the whistle off of Deborah Watling's life jacket. And that was the sonic screwdriver. It was just the whistle on her life jacket.
Wow.
Because it was just this long, slender thing, and it was easier for him to hold, I guess, with his whole hand, as opposed to, I assume the other thing was like kind of little or something, and he had to like pinch it in his fingers, where this whistle was like longer, and he was able to like hold it in the whole thing. But anyway, it basically invented the look of the sonic screwdriver going forward, which is like a big, long, cylindrical thing that, the Doctor holds with his entire hand, which is pretty cool. So,
so the first prop sonic screwdriver was technically never used and probably never really properly photographed or cataloged.
Yep. That's
Wow.
exactly right. Yeah, because it was off the cuff on set, deciding to change it on the fly from a regular screwdriver to a sonic screwdriver. So that was, that's pretty cool. And then the episode the story airs, and like all things, eventually they wiped the tapes that featured this story, and then later destroyed, junked the 16 millimeter film of the story. The only footage that still exists is footage out of the TARDIS landing on the water at the top of the story was reused later in the War Games, and so that footage still existed. And then all of the other clips come from Australia, where the censor board decided to cut all the really scary bits.
All the best parts.
The best parts. So everything that was deemed too scary, those still exist because they cut it out and then they didn't send it back to the BBC, and so they still had all of those like little clips of footage. Very specifically, the sequence where Quill and I'm never going to remember both of their names. And the reason is because they changed the name. It was like one of them was named Swan, and then they changed it, and I can't get
Oak.
the Swan
Professor
name out of
Oak.
my head. Yes, thank you. Oak and Quill. It used to be Oak and Swan. The sequence where Oak and Quill show up at the house and as two technicians and like poison that woman with gas and make her all seaweeded up. That sequence was specifically cut, presumably because Australia was switching their the gas that they used to heat everybody's homes and on their stoves and everything, which required technicians to go to your house and change the lines. And they were like, no, we're not going to have a bunch of kids too scared to let 2 technicians in because of this. So they cut that whole sequence out of the airing of that episode. But yeah, that's basically it. That is Fury from the Deep. I did learn one thing about these, the removal, the deletion of these episodes. And weirdly, of all the things that it has to blame, I mean, look, like they could have saved them because they thought like, oh, well, maybe one day it'll come back around and we should have it for archive for like, history purposes or whatever. But like that aside, the actual legitimate reason for why they were deleting all of this stuff was because Actors Equity, which is like the British version of SAG, they hated reruns because they saw reruns as an opportunity for the production houses to spend less on productions and therefore actors. So they made it basically illegal to rerun episodes of stuff. And if they wanted to do reruns, they would have to rehire everyone and redo the whole production. And, they were never going to do that with Doctor Who, but they weren't allowed to rerun the stuff. So they were like, all of this stuff is worthless. And that's why they felt fine deleting it all. Because they were like, well, none of this stuff will ever see the light of day because we're not allowed to rerun it, any of it. And it wasn't until, videotape and VHS players started showing up in people's houses that they were like, oh, maybe there's like a new way to like make money on these old stories. We should stop deleting these. And there you go. But yeah, it's just interesting seeing like, a union whose heart is in the right place in terms of like, we don't want to get our actors screwed by having less work because you're just rerunning all the work that you already paid them for. But like not thinking about like, oh, maybe we could get paid for the reruns, or anything like that. Like, it's just funny seeing like a union just not really understanding how to like fighting for the wrong thing. I guess they're just like fighting for the wrong thing instead of looking toward like any kind of future of like, wow, it would be actually easy money to do the get paid for
only
the
reruns,
American
mind could craft such a
it's true
effective way to pay people.
So yeah, that is Fury from the Deep. Nick, you want to kick us off on the walkthrough?
Sure. The TARDIS. This is one of the this is part of the footage that survived, so you could watch this on Daily Motion. But the TARDIS slowly descends right into the middle of the ocean, or War Games. I guess you could also watch War Games and be like, "That's from Fury of the Deep." And then I love the idea of the Doctor having like a lifeboat handy inside the TARDIS.
Yeah,
because like they row to the shore. The Doctor's wearing like a little beanie, which is nice. And and Jamie's like, "Oh, you operated in the middle of the fucking ocean, you git." The Doctor's like, "Yes." I like the bit where they find the sea phone on the beach and they start just playing with the foam, just kind of some silliness.
Yeah, they just start playing, just throwing at each other, and there's like a point where is it Jamie? It's the Doctor is just like, "Hey, Jamie, smell this," and just like smashes it in his face. And then they both throw Victoria in it. It's the last time that we see Victoria laugh or smile in the entire story.
No.
Oh man, to skip to the end, I fucking love the shot where they're all just having a nice dinner at night. And everyone's like, ah, and just Victoria's like, left center, just looking so glum and so disheveled and depressed.
Yeah. Just real like Sound of Silence like material.
Yeah, like Ben Affleck in that one meme.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the happy part, but I'm not happy.
Just slowly zooming in to her. As everyone laughs and cheers around her.
I can't be happy because I know it's just going to happen again next week. Something else will happen.
It always does.
And yeah, so they hear there's this pipe on the beach. The doctor hears like a thumping, like some kind of beat coming from inside the pipe. So he decides to open it up using the sonic screwdriver, which he has never used before because Jamie has no idea what it is. And he's like, it's a sonic screwdriver, stupid. It runs on sound waves. That's so interesting that he just, I mean, that's so Doctor Who that he's just like, yeah, no, I've had this for 1.5 incarnations and I just never, it's never come in handy before.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Ian wouldn't let me do anything. So, you know. And I couldn't tell him about it. Didn't trust him.
Chesterton. What, Doctor? Nothing. I fucking hated that guy.
Know it all, twit.
There's something really pure about it being like a whistle from Victoria's life jacket, because I like the idea of kids playing Doctor Who on the playground or in their backyards. They could, any kind of cylindrical object they could find in their parents' drawers, or a stick or anything like that could be a sonic screwdriver, you know, like who cares?
Yeah. And to this day,
it's very, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like, you know, before the Harry Potter movies came out, there weren't any merchandise. There wasn't any merchandise. There weren't any merchandise. And so, you know, any kind of little stick you found could be a wand.
Yeah. Very true.
And yeah, they get darted. They get shot with darts. They get like scoped.
Yeah. This is one of those sequences, like every once in a while, the pacing of the old, you know, classic Who stories really just does not do the animation any favors. And this is like one of those sequences where you're just like watching like extended shots of just like still images. Because nothing's happening, but it's supposed to be moody, and it probably was in live action, but in animation you're just like, what are we doing? What is happening? Did it pause?
Yeah, like you could imagine like the scope thing being kind of creepy and eerie.
Right.
With them moving.
Right.
We meet Cass's favorite character, Mr. Robeson.
Angry white man.
God, I hate this guy.
Because it doesn't have any.
I hate this guy so much.
Not as much as he hates guys' wives.
That's true.
Yeah, just
this guy hates wives more than anything.
The only thing he hates more than wives is moving the story forward.
Yeah. And the men who love their
Mr.
wives.
Subterfuge.
Those are the top 3 things.
Yes. So our kind of major supporting cast is Robeson, who is kind of the middle management guy who's in charge of the Euro Sea Gas Company. They just drill into the ocean for the gas that is used all throughout Britain to power their stoves and make their tea.
Yeah,
tea.
This is a business, and yet they're allowed to take prisoners. Which
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. They're not like with the government or anything.
No. And even if they were, they're just like on an oil rig. They're not like soldiers or anything.
He runs a tight ship, I guess. This guy.
Oh,
God. Cass, what did you think of the guards?
Piracy rules. The guards?
Faceless like stormtroopers that they had with like the
Oh yeah, with their weird visors. Yeah, that it does have like a very like dystopia feel to it, because they're like anonymous.
I was expecting, because we also meet Harris, who's sort of he's kind of like the Team TARDIS's main ally in this story. He's kind of the more sensible one, and he also has a wife, Maggie Harris, who's the woman who gets breathed on and becomes a plant zombie. But there's a moment at one point, I think it's like 5 or 6, where he approaches the one of the guards with the visors, and he's like, "What are you waiting for? Like, go, like go help the doctor." And I was waiting for a moment maybe where he flips the visor up, and it's revealed that they've been plant zombified. And I'm like, "Oh, maybe that's why they have visors."
Yeah.
But no, they're just kind of a random design choice.
Yep. Just post Fahrenheit 451, they were like, "This is in vogue."
They hear from Rig B, Carney over in Rig B, who like their communications with the other rigs have been compromised, and it's like really staticky, but also he's like, "Everything's fine, everything's okay." Like, why is he whispering like that?
Yeah. At one point, one of them is just like, "I think he's too old. I think we need to get rid of him."
He's like,
barely understand what he's saying.
And it's Robeson who has like grays in his hair as well. So
right. Yeah, I will say the animation does not do him any favors.
No.
Like when you saw like the live action clips of him in the footage that exists, I was like, wow, you look so much better.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, the animation is really mean to him.
Really illustrated. I mean, the creepy men too, the Shifty twins. They really, as soon as they open the door, you're like, oh, these two are baddies.
Yeah, for sure.
And while the world is being built, and like Team TARDIS is being let in and out of prison, we see a saboteur removing a file from Harris's briefcase, and we later learn that he's put like a bit of seaweed in the briefcase or in the file. So later, when Mrs. Harris, Maggie, goes to get it from the family, like the family offices back at their house, the seaweed like bites her somehow, like a spider bite, and makes her sick.
Like a jellyfish sting or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that ever happen? Has the doctor ever? Has there ever been like jellyfish monsters?
No,
I don't think so. That's interesting. No. That is weird.
Of all the things.
Yeah.
Another key supporting character is the Dutch liaison from like as different companies work for or do business with the Euro gas company, and his name is Van Luchens, and he's kind of just supposed to be a voice of defiance to Robeson, someone who doesn't work for him, so kind of be like, "You're being a cunt. Like, cut it out. Stop it. Cunt am I?"
I'll show you.
You haven't seen anything yet. Please.
Who is the saboteur that puts the seaweed in the folders? Are we meant to assume that that's like either Oak or Quill?
I think so, because I think those two are the only ones that are like plant zombified in the base until the episodes happen.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Prior to the episode beginning.
Right.
There's some really fun Jamie Victoria business in this first episode. They get locked into the broom closet, like / cell, and Jamie tries like unscrewing the frame, the metal frame, to get into like the shafts, and Victoria is like, "Well, why don't you just use my hairpin?" And Jamie's like, "Don't be daft. You can't use a hairpin to open a lock." And I'm like, that's like the main thing they're used for in fiction.
Well, I guess in his defense, maybe is he from before Victoria?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe she just knows about the use of hairpins to unlock doors, and he doesn't know that yet.
Because Jamie's from the 18th century, and Victoria's from the future, or is she also from the past?
Victoria is from the Victorian era.
Yeah,
it's that.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Yeah,
that's funny.
And Jamie's from Braveheart era.
Jamie Braveheart.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. You'll never take my what the hell is that?
But I like, Jamie like tumbles out of the shaft and hits the ground, and then as soon as that happens, Victoria just opens the door and her and the doctor just walk out, and she's like, "See, I told you." And Jamie's like, "Oh." And then there's this other moment towards the end of the episode where it's always interesting. The show ages really well because whenever kind of like 20th century chauvinism does appear, it kind of like sticks out for me. Because there's this moment where the doctor and Jamie are going to go explore something, and it's like, Victoria, you stay here, be safe. And she's like, oh man. And then Jamie's like, hey, Victoria, fuck you. Like,
it really feels like a continuous like insult to injury because she's just like, I don't like anything that's happening. I'm so scared. I just want it to end. I want the scariness to end. And Jamie's like, fuck you.
Is this like sibling dynamic? Is this kind of unique to them?
No, there's much more, I feel like, of a sibling dynamic between him and Zoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which,
because Zoe, like, we'll get there, but Zoe doesn't take any shit from him.
right. She has no patience because she is from the future.
Okay.
Zoe.
Yeah.
And so she's just like, you backward Scottish fucking moron.
Yeah, Victoria's much more passive, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we'll get to it, but possibly romantic vibes at the end.
Yeah, toward the end of this story, I think, which I don't mind because they are from like similar eras. It makes sense, I guess.
And part one ends with, it's kind of sad because Victoria is left behind by the doctor and Jamie. She gets menaced by the sea foam, and tentacles come out of the sea foam. And yeah, this is when it hit me that I was like, God, this must have scared the pants out of little kids in the 60s.
Yeah, and before we know what it is, I mean, it just full on looks like tentacles. Like, later when we find out what it is, that it's supposed to be like flat seaweed. Then it's like, oh, okay, this animation is just not doing that much justice in terms of like the seaweed of it all. Because it just straight up looks like anime tentacles like coming out of foam. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. It's horrifying.
Cass, any closing thoughts on episode 1 just before we see how Victoria gets out of this one?
I think that it's a clever setup of how the story resolves is this cliffhanger.
Oh, true. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah. 'Cause she's just like screaming, and then it's fine. Like,
and you're watching it and you're just like, well, that's lame. It's like she's okay because she just like coward, dumb. But then, like, as you go along, you're like, oh, he doesn't like her screams.
Yeah. And episode 2 starts. Doctor and the Jamie arrive. And Victoria's like, there was something here. There was some scary seaweed. Like, oh, God, it's already started. I hate this. Van Lucien and Harris are trying to convince Robeson to turn off the gas flow so they can check to see what this thumping is that people are hearing in the pipes. And Robeson's like, you're just jealous. You just want you want the pipes to love you more than me. Like, he's really grasping at straws this whole episode as to like looking for reasons why to not just do what these people are asking him to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like Cass said, it's the number one enemy of this era. Just like angry white guy who just doesn't listen to anybody.
Doesn't listen.
Just for the sake of not doing, like, because if he listened, he would he just wants them to recognize his authority at all times. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to be right all the time because if I'm wrong, I'm a piece of shit. And I'm not a piece of shit.
Yeah, like the episode can't even really give him any kind of like ulterior motive or greed or something. So he's just this like static, obnoxious, uninteresting like thing stuck in the middle of the road for like 90% of it. He's more interesting when he becomes a plant zombie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, just boring, angry middle management guy.
Yeah.
Just one of those guys that like you've worked for that are like, these are the results I want. Well, those aren't possible because of XYZ. I don't want excuses.
You're right. Like,
Just
oh my
do
God.
it.
Uh,
Just do it. I don't care I don't care. I want it done. It's like, what are you talking? I can't just get people to sign up for credit cards. It's not.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The Price, I think, is who this character is. He kind of talks Victoria and Jamie through like the layout and like, here's what we do. And there's this thing called the central control rig system. And it's at the center, and it's like it's where all the rigs are connected to. And it's, you know, for listeners, it's where the final kind of big set piece takes place. So it's important that we know that that's a place that exists. Maggie, Mrs. Harris, is visited by Oak and Quill. They are immediately suspicious looking as hell. I think they are more accurately animated because they also just look immediately but then when you see the footage of them, they really are good at being creepy looking, these actors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the tall one who is like mostly goofy looking in the animation. But then like in the actual live action clip that you get of him, you're like, Jesus Christ, that guy's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he looks very inconspicuous until he like opens his mouth and bugs his eyes, and it's the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. No, yeah. And then they do, according to the subtitles, they exhale forcefully at Mrs. Harris and breathe on her and like we later learn that it's like emitting this kind of like invisible gas. The doctor and Mr. Harris and Jamie and Victoria, they come in at the last minute. They find Mrs. Harris on the floor. They're like, no, what happened? And they see the seaweed on the ground. And Victoria's like, oh, that's kind of like what I saw earlier. And the doctor is like, someone must have put this seaweed in the file for you to find it, but instead your wife found it and just got bit by it. So there is a saboteur. It's just not me. About. Yeah, this is when I noticed the Roger Delgado wanted poster. And episode 2 ends with Van Lucien giving this I love the little zoom ins that the animation does of like there's something in there watching, waiting in the deep, and every kind of point it zooms in a little, and it's so extra.
Yeah.
The cliffhangers in this story are really unlike most cliffhangers. I will give them credit there. I don't know if they're good, but they are interesting because they are very different than we're used to getting. Because it's just a lot of people being like, and then the worst thing ever is about to happen. You're like, okay. You know, it's kind of it's interesting in that way. It's very dramatic.
Yeah, they feel more like the ending, like the chapter endings of a book.
Yeah. 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 They're not like exciting, like, oh shit kind of endings. Like there's no he's got a gun. That's not an ending.
Seaweed's got a gun.
Seaweed's got a gun. God, could you imagine?
Just
Holy
firing
shit.
blindly at a enclosed space. That's actually really scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Terrifying. Yeah, I don't know how effective all of these cliffhangers are, but I will say the most effective one I think is the episode 5 cliffhanger, which is pretty creepy.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, we'll get to it. Episode 3, they're still in Mrs. Harris's house. The doctor teaches Jamie that everything in the sea is alive. Which is great. I love it when they do kind of have like a Mr. Peabody and Sherman dynamic.
Oh yeah,
Jamie and the doctor. It's like, don't be.
Yeah, that just keeps going.
Don't be Doc Victoria. Seaweed's not alive. And it's like, well, actually, Jamie, yes, it is.
It's a plant, idiot.
Plants aren't alive. They don't have eyes or mouths. Jamie,
how did you become my companion again?
He was cute.
Yeah, it's true. He looked good in the skirt.
Is he the first male youth companion?
No, Ben, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have
Ben
I
is
haven't
who
met
you
him
haven't
yet.
met yet, but he's a first doc. Well, no, you did.
No,
You
yeah,
did for a
you did.
second.
Ben and
'cause he's
Polly?
in the first Troughton story.
Okay, I
Mhm.
do remember him.
Yeah, Ben and Polly.
What's his
yeah.
deal?
He's kind of a jock.
Okay.
He's like
So-
a sailor.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So he's got a very different vibe. Yeah. Nobody. I don't think there's a male companion better than Jamie. I think he is.
I think
He
Ben
takes
is
the
also
crown.
supposed to be older than Jamie too.
Oh, like early 20s.
Yeah, because I guess Jamie's supposed to be a teenager.
Yeah,
Yeah, according to the story.
I guess.
Yeah, I know. I guess that's kind of what they were going for with Ryan in retrospect, of kind of like a youthful male companion, because he doesn't go for those a lot because he can't
Mhm.
sleep with them.
hmm
Sketchy.
It's very sketchy.
They take the Wii back to the lab. I love like mad scientist Troughton doctor, like how like
Mhm.
excited he is when he's like tee hee hee, like it worked, like the seaweed is alive. This is great. I'm having fun. Robeson starts cracking up to the point where like every time he'll like storm off, and Van Lucien and Harris will be like, okay, this is becoming a problem. Like we're gonna have to like
Mm-hmm.
knock him over the head with a candlestick or something. We learned that the weed formations are giving off toxic gas, and at this point, Harris locks himself in his cabin. We get that weird like demon in a bottle close up of like the whiskey tumbler. Oh,
Yeah.
don't do it, Robeson. You're 4 years sober.
No.
No.
And then he gets visited by
Sad.
visions of he gets big visions of Quill and Oak, and then the plant monster. But I'd love to see that in the live action footage. I bet that was really trippy looking.
Mhm.
And yeah, they episode 3 ends with it's really distressing because like Victoria is just slowly starting to hit her the reality of life with the doctor. Like she's like, it's just always going to be like this. It's just something terrible's always going to happen. And the doctor and Jamie are like, yeah,
Isn't it great?
it's the spice of life. Victoria's like, I don't like this.
I don't think
I don't
it
think
is.
this is the spice of life. What Cass, what was her status quo like? Remind me, like what was she? Was she like a student? Was she like a school girl?
No, she was living with her father, and then her father got like murdered by Daleks.
Right.
So then she was like, well, I guess I'm an orphan now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, she really hasn't had like a breather
No.
since this started. And
No.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess this is kind of one of two ways. Like, there's been like a couple of main ways companions exit, and it normally is just like, it's like kind of like when you figure out that you're just like not suited psychologically to the job that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, I don't think I should be a paramedic. Like, I don't mesh well with the unpredictability. I think I need to like work in an office or a store or something.
I don't like looking at open wounds.
Yeah. Like, well, then you shouldn't be a paramedic. Gentlemen, hand to God. I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember how part 3 ends. Is this when Van Lucien goes under when he's like, "Oh, I'll do it," and then he or is that part 4?
No, I think that's episode
Okay.
4.
No. Okay, episode 3. All right, this is my second favorite ending. Episode 3, Robson has started to become zombified.
Yes, and then he meets
goes and he meets Maggie at the
Mhm.
beach. And Maggie's like, you know what to do. And he's like, yes. And then she just walks into the ocean.
Into the ocean. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember that.
Yeah, really moody and creepy.
God, I wish this one existed so much. Like, I don't know.
There's like a shot of it in like in the telesnap or whatever that is
Mhm.
I'll post it in the Discord so you guys can
Yeah.
look at it, because it's just like, oh man, it like this shot isn't recreated in animation, and I'm like, this shot is everything. Like,
And like you said, Scott, especially like in black and white, it you could picture
Yeah.
having this kind of like moody Carnival of Souls kind of vibe.
oh yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. I know. I'm sad that this doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Every time I
Yeah.
see stuff from it, I'm just
Damn.
like, damn, that'd be so good.
Episode
really good.
4 begins. The situation is getting dire. We've lost 3 rigs now. Like communication has ceased. Robeson's gone. No one knows where Robeson is, and Harris is like, I don't know what to do. This is getting fucked. The Jamie, it's really. I mean, like, you know, Jamie is like taking a nap. He's just like, all right, well, time for a nap. And Victoria's like, this is horrible. Like, what are we doing? This is just our life. And Jamie's like, yeah, no, it is. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's like,
She's like, okay, well, let me just try to calm myself down by like talking about the weeds and how they work, and oh my god, I'm freaking myself the fuck out. I'm wigging out. And then the doctor comes in and is like, are you wigging out in here? And she's like, yes.
Where's Jamie? Sleeping. He's just taking a nap.
He's totally cool with everything that's happening.
Yes.
Victoria is so real for this, though.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like, yeah, there's like, she's the sane one, and just Jamie and the doctor just match each other's freak. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jamie was literally like hanging from a skylight like an hour ago, you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's even more haunting. If we look at all of their adventures kind of happening like 24, you know?
Yeah.
Like, has this been like a
Yeah.
week for Victoria, you know?
Yeah, this is just like a nonstop nightmare for her.
And
Without a
Jamie's just
doubt.
too dumb to like process psychologically like what's happening to him.
Yeah.
So this is when Van
Um,
Lucien. Oh no, please.
Let's
yeah.
see. Yeah. This is when Megan Jones shows
Yeah,
up,
Megan
right?
Jones and her little
Mhm.
lapdog, that one guy.
Yep. Yep.
And they're like, yeah, you know, I matched up Harris. I thought Harris and Robeson would match each other well because Harris has a lot of book learning, but Robeson, you know, he's a rig man. He has practical knowledge on the rigs. So that's why I paired them up. But I guess it's not working out well because I got called in here. Van
Yeah.
Lucien is like, I'm sick of this. I'm going down there to check it out. He gets seemingly killed and drug under by the weeds, but we later learned this is one of those ones where kind of nobody dies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't see him again in the episode. I don't think he's even at the final dinner, but like they go out of their way to say like, no, everyone's okay. Everyone's dehypnotized, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is nice. Just this once, everybody lives.
Especially such a, you know, a dark, moody episode. It kind of like lessens the blow, maybe for kids in retrospect of like, no, it's all right.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
They're all okay. You know, the parents maybe.
Don't be scared of
See-
seaweed. You'll just be a zombie
They
for a
know they
little
wake
while.
up and they're fine. Even the Dutchman.
Yeah. As long as one of your friends screams real loud, everything will be okay.
Jamie and the doctor, again, kind of matching each other's freak. They're like, okay, well, we'll go down and find Van Lucien. And Victoria's like, no, like, if you die, I won't have any friends left. I don't know these people. And they're like,
Mhm.
what are you being so fucking weird today? And it is kind of funny how this is kind of just like an innocuous adventure for them, but it's just kind of like, you never know. You never know when the reality of your life is just going to like hit you and you're just going to realize it doesn't fit you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, kind of the main characteristic, there's this line that Megan Jones has where, you know, they're trying to convince her what's going on. She of course doesn't really believe that like seaweed is taking over the complex rig by rig, but then the doctor and Jamie are like, hey, we can't find Van Lucien, he's probably dead. You know, but like we're trying to help. And Megan Jones is like, well, the least I can do is listen. And it's like, yes, that's kind of the one thing that Robeson won't do. She's like, this is crazy, but I can be convinced that what you're telling me is true. If you, I will listen. Which is nice. There's a part where they find Victoria passed out, and Jamie's like, no, Victoria, no, not Victoria. And Victoria's like, oh, Jamie, I didn't know that you cared. Kind of setting up their, kind of putting a point on the fact that these as much ribbing as they do for as much as they get on each other's nerves, there is like a lot of affection there between the two of them. I have a question about something the Doctor says at the end of this episode. So we see weeds, the tentacles creeping through a glass pipe, and we get a really cool group shot of everybody. I like that. Do you remember that? Where they're all just like standing in a row. And they're like, what's happening, Doctor? And the Doctor's like, it's the advanced guard. The war has begun. It's the battle of the giants. And I was like, what? Are we the giants? Or what? I was literally like, wait, are there two things that I didn't clock? Is the seaweed and the foam different stuff? Cass, did you like that? Did you make sense of that line? Did that bother you?
I think he's just being really, really extra for no reason.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. It's a real, like, never mind, that episode's over kind of moment.
Yeah.
And this is it. The end of all things. The apocalypse begins.
It does feel like the end of like a pulp story, and then it's like, well, like, tune in next time for like whatever.
Same Doctor Who time, same Doctor Who channel. There's one channel. It's 1965.
Yeah, except the Doctor is doing that himself directly to camera.
Yes.
And Jamie's like, who are you talking to?
The little people, Jamie. The little people on the TV watching us.
I spoke to them once. It was Christmas time. Nobody liked that.
Yeah. Wait, didn't 15 do that? Didn't that recently happen? Wasn't there like a fourth wall break?
Yeah, he like winked or something like that. Yeah, it was like the first time since the Feast of Stephen. Yeah,
that's Mrs. Flood's job.
Right. Yes.
I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be fun if like once every 10 years, just like the Doctor kind of looks at us and is just like,
I know you're out there. Hey, don't let me get canceled again.
We're not doing good. It's not working out like we wanted.
Don't let it happen. Don't let them do it.
I could feel it getting closer.
Oh no.
No, we're fine.
I don't want to go.
No. Season 3 is going to get greenlit any day now. Episode 5, we learned that the seaweed is attacking top priority people first because they're able to kind of mind meld with them so that they still have all of their, if they, for example, Robeson, because Robeson knows the ins and outs of the rig, the hive mind seaweed race does. It's kind of cool. We never really learn like what. There's never a part where Troughton's like, "Oh, it's the phlegm flam." They've been here for millions of years. It's just kind of this nameless seaweed force.
Yeah, sentient seaweed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, it just says main enemy, weed creature. That's its canonical.
Is it even
term.
Capitalized?
No.
Is there a term for cosmic horror but ocean?
I think it's still cosmic. I think it's still considered cosmic.
Because I really like that. Apparently, like, I like the idea of like we know less about the ocean than we do like space.
Cass,
Which
there's
is
a video game that recently came out that I
oh
think you would go apeshit for if that's
really
your vibe. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah. For
Um,
sure.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're so right, Cass. There's that great Kristen Stewart movie, Underwater, that
mm.
deals with that. Have you guys ever fallen into that YouTube hole? There's like a phobia that people have, and people make like 3D animations of like, you know, your POV, you're a diver underwater, and this thing submerges and it's coming out, and it's like Cthulhu, or it's like the bloop, and
Mhm.
it's like really kind of like the scope of it. You're like, look how fucking big it is.
It's Godzilla.
But yeah, no. Yeah, more cosmic ocean stuff in Doctor Who. That's great because you don't have to see a lot of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
That's
bloop.
true.
Google it. It's fun. We now know it was just glacial ice moving, but it's fun to imagine that it was a big monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is when the part 5. Megan Jones goes to check on Robeson, and then we do get the part Scott was talking about, where he's like tucking him into bed, and it's like, it's me, it's Megan. Like, Megan, help me, Megan. He's so fucking pathetic.
Did anyone else get the vibe that they like were an item at one point? Because she was like, no, like we're old friends. Like maybe he'll listen to me, and she doesn't want anyone else in the room with her. Like, and she's just like, hey, and she like uses his first name, and I'm like,
And they were alone on that rig for months, you know?
Yeah. And now she's his boss.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I like that, Cass. I like that headcanon.
That's good.
At this point, they're like, well, wait a second. Who put the fire? Who's someone else is running subterfuge this whole time? Like, there's someone that's not Mrs. Robeson, or there's someone that isn't Mrs. Harris or Robeson that's under the employ of the plant creatures. And then as soon as that happens, Quill and Oak step forward, and Victoria like elbows Jamie. And it's like, I think it's those two. And Jamie's like, say no more. And like bum rushes both of them. He thinks it is like, oh, the old McCribbin punch still has a wallop. And then it's like, I don't think it was the punch, Jamie. I think it was Victoria's shrill womanly scream. Because that's able to subdue Quill, the skinny one. They also kind of have Horace and Jasper vibes from 101 Dalmatians. The weed tentacles are breaking through the glass. While this is happening, Robeson abducts Victoria and puts her in a helicopter, and so Jamie and the doctor follow them on another helicopter, and they make it to the central rig. And this is when we get the really creepy cliffhanger that Scott was talking about, where they follow Victoria's muffled screams, and they open up a hatch, and there's just like foam, and then these beings like rise up. The sea creature rises up from the sea foam, and it's like, yeah, I would have loved to have seen how they pulled this off with practical effects, but it was really scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I saw an image. Let me let me see if this is the same. I feel like this is probably from the same scene because I don't know what else it is. And I'll be honest, Nick, the animation is way creepier than
Oh, really?
how it was pulled off. Oh my god, it's yeah. Wait,
it's like a mop.
I'm sending you guys I'm gonna send you guys the picture because it's very silly.
Oh dear.
What?
That's really funny.
Yeah.
He looks like he's just covered in like bubble bath.
Yeah, a dude covered in bubble bath.
Yeah, not nearly as scary as the execution of the animation.
They really took some liberties,
unfortunately. Yeah, they did.
They're like, we could spice this up. So, episode 6 begins with Robeson under the influence of the weed creature being like, we can conquer matter, like the mind doesn't exist, and the doctor's like, no, matter cannot conquer mind. It goes against the laws of nature. And the weed creature is like, bully the laws of nature. and bully you. And then Victoria screams, and that's where we the doctor's like, okay, yeah, for sure it's her screams. They don't like her screams. Let's get out of here. And then Troughton has this really naughty. They learn that they have to fly the helicopter themselves because the pilot won't come down and get them. The doctor's like, oh hell yeah, I've been wanting to fly one of these things since I saw one.
Yeah,
it's great.
But also, them all screaming.
Oh my god!
Together as they're flying the helicopter.
I love this.
My favorite Troughton delivery is in this sequence where I don't remember if it's Jamie or Victoria who's just like, do you know how to fly this thing? And the doctor's just like, well, we're airborne, aren't we?
And then there's this great extended sequence where, again, I'm like, how the hell did they do this? Because in the animation, you see half a dozen huge building-sized tentacles rising out of the ocean, and they're just screaming and dodging all of them. And at one point, they do a loop-de-loop, and they're screaming upside down, and they come out of the other side. And the doctor's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And it's like, "What's interesting? I didn't know helicopters could loop-de-loop."
It's crazy. I can't imagine. I feel like it would be another situation like the bubble bath guy. I feel like if we actually saw what it looked like, we'd be like, oh,
all right.
Yeah. The animation really did.
I like when it does silly little model work though. So I feel like the close-ups of them screaming and then the camera shaking and then a tiny little helicopter twirling in air.
Oh, I would love that, but I'm just afraid that it I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're building it up too much.
Yeah, even the lameness of the little toy helicopter. I wonder if it's not even that fun, I don't know.
Oh, that's
I can't
fair.
remember if it was a writer or an actor. I remember reading an interview where someone said that when they were a kid, they actually preferred reading the Doctor Who Target books because you could what you imagined was so much better than what special effects were capable of at the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. That would definitely.
They arrive back at whatever rig was the main rig where most of the episode has been taking place, and they're like, okay, I have a tape. I'm going to get isolated audio of Victoria's screaming, and I'm going to he has this big honking DJ table that he has hooked up. It's very Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And using a sonic laser sound wave, we can kind of shoot sound waves of Victoria's distorted screams at the creatures. And so they do that. They manage to fight off the weed creatures, and the day is saved, and everyone's happy. Everyone's alive. No one died. Everyone's cool with Robeson, and we already, we said, they're having that dinner where they're drinking wine and stuff, and Victoria's just yeah, I can't do this anymore. And I don't like it when the companion just has to stay where their last adventure took place, because it's no, where do you want to go? The Doctor can drop you off anywhere. You don't have to live with these two people you just met. Because the Harris is
but it feels like Victoria is very much just I am not going to step foot in that fucking thing ever again. If that means I'm here forever, fuck it, whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, because in episode 4 where she's talking to Jamie about it, and he's just she brings up we don't even know where we're going to end up next when we're done here, and Jamie's yeah, that's part of the fun, and Victoria's I don't think it is, and so I think it is very much no, I'm staying here where I know it's safe now, and I'm kind of passively familiar with these people instead of just wherever we end up next.
And maybe she'll want to join a boarding school or go to, because there's a part where the part where Price is explaining how the rig, the complex works. She's oh, it must be so lonely. Life at sea, it must be miserable and lonely and sad. And so I was kind of bummed when that's where she ended up at the end.
Mm.
Yeah. I feel like she won't be there for forever. I think she'll, get a job as a secretary or something and then meet a nice guy and settle down.
Maybe she'll get to see the Beatles play.
Yeah.
I kind of like her ending up with the Harrises though, because like she did like lose both of her parents. Like I don't know if she like knew her mom even. So like this is her kind of like getting new parents.
Yeah.
And like, we've established their relationship, like clearly like they care about each other and stuff. So I'm like, oh, this is really wholesome.
Yeah. No, they seem cool.
Yeah. So goodbye, Victoria.
Jamie and Victoria have like a goodbye where it's kind of like, are they going to kiss? And then Jamie like kisses her on the forehead. Cass, how do you feel about the prospect of romantic Jamie X Victoria?
I mean, like, I don't know, the vibes are there, but I prefer it as more of like a friendship. Like I care about you and I like care about like your well-being and stuff, but like, I don't know. The forehead kiss is really cute.
Yeah. Scott, do you feel similarly?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not when it comes to the classic Who companions, I'm not like too hell-bent on
making them
having them hook up, I guess.
Yeah, they're very like child coded
just
for the most part.
Yeah. Even the older ones are pretty child coded. So
except Ian and Barbara, I am hell bent on them hooking up.
Yeah, that's true. But they were also around a really long time together,
Yeah.
So it just
and they knew each other before.
Yeah. It made it have like really different vibes. So yeah, I don't know. It's whatever.
Is that ever canonized
like
after the fact? Ian and Barbara?
I don't know.
Oh, later they got married.
I don't know. I actually don't know offhand. I'm sure we'll find out when we get to their exit adventure down the line. But
because they leave together.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, it was just
that would be insane if they didn't. If like they didn't leave together, that would feel insane. I'd be like, what is happening right now?
Like it's just Juan and Ian for a week, and you're like, this is weird.
Yeah. Oh no. These are toxic vibes. I don't like this at all.
And I wanted to note it ends on this very sad, so they're waving goodbye to Victoria. They get back to the TARDIS, and Jamie's like really sad, and Troughton's like, I was fond of her too, Jamie. And it's the last line of the story, and it was kind of this hint at something that gets more refined in the decades to come. But like, the Doctor he doesn't have the emotional access to really understand what Jamie's feeling. Like, it's like, what's like, I liked her too, but like, she's gone. That's what happens. And it's like, oh yeah, this is like, as much as they do match each other's freak in that final moment, Jamie's like clearly more distraught over losing her friend than the Doctor is.
I also think the Doctor like goes on to be better at picking companions. He becomes like a little more like, well, we can't just take anybody. We don't want another Victoria situation on our hands, We need to make sure that they've got the gumption to handle everything we throw at them. Because I feel like Victoria is like the last companion that leaves in this kind of fashion, this like, I can't take it anymore fashion.
Like almost kind of traumatized.
I feel like all the rest of them leave for like other reasons, usually a boy. But, or forcibly for reasons outside their control or stuff like that. But very rarely do they leave because they're like, I just can't take it anymore.
Yeah. Like obviously I've seen a lot less departures than you two. But like, like Sarah Jane, because there's like Go On Get. There's the Martha Jones kind of like, I'm ready. Even if you're not, it's time for me to go. I'm the one that put my foot down. Or like,
right.
which is kind of what this is in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not as like strong-willed. It's more just like, I can't handle this shit anymore. It's a little more like Donna in Runaway Bride, where he's like, "You want to be my companion?" And she's like,
You just did a genocide.
Are you kidding? This is insane. No, absolutely not. Yeah.
I do think it's interesting watching, because it was last season that we covered Susan's departure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like this one now, I like kind of tracking, because I think Victoria and Susan are very much like cut from the same companion cloth. Like they're damsel, they scream a lot, like they're young, and so like it's interesting to me kind of comparing the two. Like, and obviously Troughton isn't related to Victoria, but he's like taken on this like, I think of like Troughton as like a wacky uncle doctor, and so he's taken like this like, because I think it's been a really long time since we watched Power of the Daleks, but doesn't he promise Victoria's dad that he'll like look after her or something?
Yeah.
Am I making that up? I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think you are right.
Yeah. So like he's taken like this guardianship of her, and I think that's like interesting, where he's just like he's very he's like moody about it, and like maybe he is remembering Susan leaving.
Yeah. How does Polly leave? Have I seen that yet?
Yeah, you did. Does it happen in Highlanders or the one right after Highlanders?
No, I think Ben and Polly leave together.
Yeah.
I think it's whatever's after. Like, that's the Censorites?
Oh, God, yeah. Why do they?
Yeah.
How do they leave?
I think they just leave. They're like, okay, bye.
Okay, our contracts have expired. Thank you.
Yeah, I think they like the doctor was just like, okay, well, you're back in the '60s, and they're like, good enough, and then they leave.
Yeah,
yeah, because I'm just running through.
It's not the Censorites, because Censorites is First Doctor.
Oh, what is that called then?
Web of
Faceless Ones.
Faceless Ones. Oh, okay.
Because the ones I've seen so far,
that sounds familiar.
Perry dies. Quote dies. Mel. Have I seen Mel leave, or does the show just end?
No, Mel stays behind when they meet Ace.
Yeah.
They meet Ace, and then Mel's like, I think I'm done, but you hang out with this chick. She seems cool. She likes bombs. And he's like, and bomber jackets. And she's like, right. How could I forget? Yes.
Yeah. Good old Mel.
Thank you, Ace. And in a couple of weeks, we're gonna see. Oh, and we saw the exit of the Third Doctor's first companion, Elizabeth Shaw, which was just off screen. They're like, she was transferred. Meet your new companion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in a couple of weeks, we will see the exit of Sarah Jane Smith.
Sad.
Yes.
And
yeah. But she'll come back around, because we get like a half season or whatever with her with the Third Doctor, so that's good. So
that's true.
Yeah.
What's Three's companion's name right now? She's really cool. I'm just drawing a blank on her name. Jo. Haven't seen Jo leave yet.
No. Jo leaves for a boy.
Okay.
She's one of those.
That one's fun though.
It is a fun one though. Yeah. And it's not bad. It doesn't feel like I mean, she's been a little boy crazy this whole time, so her leaving over a boy doesn't seem particularly out of character.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I like how she leads the unit boys around.
Yeah, that's good.
And then Yaz gets dumped. Right? 13's like,
yes.
Bye, I can't do this.
I think I need to change by myself. I don't want you to see me as a man.
So disappointing.
Just in case that happens. There's no guarantee, but like just in case.
Remember me as
I don't want
remember
you to see
me
that.
as I was, blonde and
man.
distant.
Yeah.
Oh, we've seen Adric and Nissa leave too.
Oh yeah, how did Nissa leave?
Right, Adric's dead.
I'll never
Adric
forget how
died.
Adric
Adric
with him
leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nissa just like stays behind to help those like.
Oh, that's
lepers
right.
or whatever.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, it's cool
Yeah.
when they have like a purpose.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about this more in a couple of weeks when we do the King's Demons, or I'm sorry, Hand of Fear. But next week, unfortunately, I'm sorry everyone, sorry in advance, we have to talk about the mutants. Which is maybe the worst Third Doctor story.
Not in my opinion.
Oh, is it the one right after that?
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, that one's
Yeah.
pretty bad too.
I think the mutants also has middle management white guy who won't listen.
Yeah, that feels like that kind of
Great.
story.
Yeah.
It's really boring. That's the big thing with the mutants.
Is it 4 episodes or
it's
6
really-
episodes?
Sure isn't,
6.
Nick.
That's 6?
It sure
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it's
All right.
6.
Well, this was 6.
It's 6 goddamn episodes. Yeah. So anyway, that's the mutants next week. It's on Tubi. Everybody check that out, I guess. And you don't have to. You can just listen to us bitch about it next week. So that's the mutants next week. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will talk to you then. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.